In a world where the podcast multiverse is a concept about which we know frighteningly little, two dudes must become something greater than themselves, something elemental, something terrifying. A podcast. With great podcasting, there must also be great responsibility. To show the multiverse that it's full of people ready to believe in good. The multiverse will hunt us. They will send the dogs on us, because that's what needs to happen. But it won't be ready to hear from us. Not us, united. Alright, we'll start this week off like we start off every week. What's up, everybody? Hey
guys.
Whoa. It's us, not us, united.
Hey.
Holla.
Man, have you ever felt cool? Because I just felt really cool.
Yeah, I felt cool, except for the last 30 seconds. Every single part of my life, cool, until I just did what I just did.
Yeah, I don't know what overtook you, and then it led to me, so it was infectious.
Yeah.
Doing what we just did.
Mm.
But you just looked at me, and all of a sudden I saw, don't look at me. You just look.
We hype. It's what we do.
It's what we do. Not us united. And we could go back and start over.
No.
But we're choosing not to.
Never.
Yeah.
Nope.
No. That's how we do it.
That's one thing we will promise. Not us united never restarts.
No. We've always...
We keep that first take.
Yeah. We've never gone back.
Nope.
Never.
We just delete those episodes.
Yeah. We're just like, cool.
If they're not suitable for air, they just don't make it to the air. But we never restart.
Yeah. Well, speaking of restarting,
how
about we restart this conversation?
Nice.
with
Recenter.
Recenter.
Yes.
With our actual topic.
Yes.
And we will be discussing the newest Wes Anderson film.
Oh, our boy, Wessie And.
Wessie And, the Wesses of all Ands.
The Wessie-verse.
Yeah.
Let's get it.
The Andy Wes.
Mm-hmm.
If you go by last name, first name.
Yes. That's good clarification. That could have been confusing.
Yeah. I want to make sure everyone's on the same page. We are going to be reviewing his newest film, The French Dispatch, starring half of Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so we'll be just getting into that. Yeah. One of I don't know when this is going to be released, but one of the movies we also talked about recently was Grand Budapest Hotel, one of his films. Yes. And so his newest film, The French Dispatch, was coming out, so we're just like, hey, might as well go out and see it. We're both fans of his movies and his kind of like style, and so might as well go see it. Do you want to describe kind of our experience going to the theaters? Yeah,
so we have a couple theater options where we're at. We have your more mainstream, just classic theater experience of like, hey, it's in the mall. That's our theater. Then we have like 20 miles away, like the mega experience, like leather recliners, heated seats, just big old screens.
The biggest screen you could ever imagine.
Yeah,
just imagine
just think, yeah. Then we also have a local theater that does more art house style. Yeah. I wouldn't say that they're only showing like indie films, but they definitely don't go for just the all-out blockbusters. Right. So it's kind of hand-selected. It's a little more curated.
Yeah,
with
like your
what
end
they
games
show.
Aren't going to be there. But you'll have like a French Dispatch, or you'll have like more kind of the Oscar nominated kind of thingies.
Yeah, something that just kind of is a little more like outwardly showing that it's more artistic than your classic like cinema that's like, hey, explosions.
Yeah.
So we went to that theater for the first time. Brand new, pretty much, within the last year, I think it's been built. And incredibly cool experience.
Yeah, I liked it a lot.
Nice little, like, loungy chairs, like, very, almost, like, coffee shop vibes.
Yes, coffee shop chairs that were nice and comfy, and there's about 3 rows.
Yep.
And about 6 chairs in each row.
And everyone still has to kind of be socially distanced, so like only 2 people can sit in like each row or something like that. Like it was ridiculous, but it was awesome.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it's this like really nice new kind of fancy glass windows downstairs of this hotel. It's got a bowling alley next to it. It's got an arcade next to it.
It's a vibe.
It's a vibe. And then you go up like this elevator and you're in this little tiny room watching a Wes Anderson film.
Yeah, it felt right.
It felt like
like Wes Anderson would have like approved of
boy,
what we chose
Wesy
to do.
And was like, this is how I intended it to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I don't know.
We got a beer.
There's no other theatrical experience I could think of besides like going to like Sundance, but somehow going to like Sundance and only being in a show with like 5 people. Yeah. I don't know. It's wild. So it felt very authentic for our first time to be like, hey, we're surrounded by people who definitely consume the arts. It felt like no one's going to this movie be like, hey, it's a Tuesday night.
Haven't heard of this guy.
French Dispatch? Like, no. Like, everyone's there for a reason.
Yeah, everyone knows what's going on here.
So that was kind of cool to, like, it felt very much like a theatrical experience with people who were, like, there for not just mindless fun. Yeah. Anyway, so that was our experience. It's a nice, crispy, like, hour 45. But I will say it is a movie that feels like it's 3 hours long.
Yeah, it's interesting, and in that it's oddly, and will be no spoilers here for a while, oddly brisk, but yeah, it's like, oh man, this movie's still kind of going, isn't it?
I felt every minute of it where I would like check my clock and I'd be like, how did only 5 minutes pass? Like it felt like every scene took its time.
There's a lot going on,
and while the movie is kind of made up of short stories to some degree, like it's not just one overarching story. That kind of helps break it up a bit, but you're still finding yourself like, whoa, that 25-minute mini movie or short film felt like an hour. And then it's like, oh, this next short film that was like 25 to 30 minutes long, that felt like a movie. And so I feel like that pacing almost made it feel like, wow, that's a very full 145.
Yeah, we had like 3 separate arcs. Yeah. And even like mini arcs before. Yeah, it was interesting in that way of the storytelling, and I think one that we weren't super prepared for. And knowing nothing going into the movie, it's like it's a new Wes Anderson movie, and it's out, so I'm gonna go watch it.
Well, and he always has done ensemble casts, so this just being that much bigger didn't make it seem like it was going to all be disconnected. So I think when we went in, it's like, wow, how are all these parts going to be connected? And it's like, well, it didn't have to, because there was like kind of 3 short stories told throughout. So the
new characters per each one. Yeah. I think what best summed it up was the minute it was finished, you turned to me and was like, that was the most Wes Anderson movie I've ever seen. It was Wes Anderson times 10. It's the most Wes Anderson movie.
Yeah. I mean, he already kind of has like a style, like we were talking with some of our friends earlier tonight, of it's crazy that you can say like this looks like a Wes Anderson film. Like to really say that sentence means a lot, because there's very few people, like even like a Spielberg or like a big time director, you don't say that movie looks like a Spielberg movie because he doesn't have like a style. But you can say like Tarantino, Wes Anderson are a few that come to mind. Maybe Christopher Nolan almost has kind of
I don't think the most celebrated, but I think Michael Bay has a style too.
True. So. If it has like obnoxious amounts of American flags, you're like, oh, Michael Bay. But yes, but like very, very few directors have like a style, and usually that's for good reason, because they're diversifying what they make, you know. But I feel like Wes Anderson has found a way to be like put his signature on it while still making incredibly unique stories. And so this felt like the most Wes Anderson. Yeah. But in a lot of ways, the biggest departure from what he's done in the past, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think we can unpack that a little later.
In spoilers,
I felt the same way in that, like, I don't know if that I love this movie or I'm very annoyed by it. Just because, like, it is so... it is avant-garde in the way that's like, hey, we're just gonna do this because we can do this.
Yeah.
And and it's just like, and there's a beauty in that, definitely. And that's I would lean more towards that. But if you're not like a fan of something like that, of a movie that is a little like weird and quirky, this isn't gonna be it, because this goes to the max.
Yes.
But I enjoyed looking back on it. Like, I enjoyed the unpredictability of the movie, of like, well, I don't really know what this scene's gonna do, because there's literally every other scene has been completely different.
Yeah.
And like there's like lighting differences and like just character choices and the casting, and just like it feels different, and I enjoyed how different it was.
Yes.
And it feels like a movie that like I need to watch again and study. Like, this is like, the framing is so well done, and like just like all these little hints and details is like, wow, I missed everything. I missed so much. And I feel, and that's like why what I enjoy about movies is like the pure joy of like not knowing what's happening, and like taking the craft to like just be artistic in that way.
Yeah. The best way I can describe it, and this is going to be weird, so track with me, but I feel like it honors Wes Anderson very well.
Yeah.
Most of his movies are like a bullet's trajectory from like a long range rifle. It's going to go like far distances, and its path will be kind of unpredictable, but it's just kind of it's going, and it's going to be quirky and whatnot, and then it's going to stick the landing at the end. This movie felt very much like a shotgun, where it was like buckshot. It was like, hey, guess what? The trajectory and the amount of pellets are way different than anything I've ever done. So, and it was just like, whoa. And so you almost feel hit by just like, like there is no like single thing I'm focusing on, because I'm thinking about 5 of the other things while you're introducing me to the 6th. And so I think it's much more of a like, maybe after some rewatches and some research, I could come to appreciate it a lot more than the kind of the single trajectory of like, hey, at least in Grand Budapest or, you know, Moonrise Kingdom, it's kind of like I'm following. I'm a little more narrow, focused. And this one, I kind of feels like it really pumps you into a lot of stuff, and so it just felt a little different in that regard.
Yeah, that would be my most negative thing about the movie, is because like it does feel unfocused, but that kind of feels like the point. Yeah. And so like struggling with that decision, and that was kind of like what I was doing throughout the whole movie. And so as you're saying, here's 5 things that you're still trying to understand. Here's the 6th thing that you have to now understand. It's like, wait, okay, so I'm still wrapping my head around this, but this shot's really cool. Oh wait, now we're here now. It's just like, I think I'm coming to just love this movie in a sense. And like to say like, man, I need to watch it again. That's the greatest thing you could say about a movie, in my opinion. Yeah. Like, man, I gotta watch this again. Yeah,
like, it needs studied.
Yeah. Like either for enjoyability, because you're like, man, I really, really enjoyed like Star Wars. I gotta watch Star Wars again. I gotta like pop it back in, or a funny movie like Werewolves Within, where it's just like, I really gotta watch this again because it was just stupid and fun, or like I didn't understand really what was going on in this. I need to watch this movie again to really appreciate it. I think overall that's like probably the best thing you could say about a movie.
Yeah, I think the difference between watching a Wes Anderson film in the past versus watching this Wes Anderson film in particular is I want to go back and watch Grand Budapest and Moonrise because I just really enjoyed being in that world, and I just kind of want to like see the beauty of it again. I don't need to restudy
those movies.
Mr. Gustav H. From Grand Budapest. Like, I got it. Like, that was pretty self-explanatory. But it was beautiful, so let's go revisit it. This is like, I don't think I can truly appreciate what just happened because I'm still processing what just happened before this just happened. Like, whoa. Like, it was just like drinking from a fire hydrant.
Yeah, that's pretty much exactly right.
And that's why I felt like it's the most Wes Anderson in that he got to just go off, but because he went so off, in some ways feels almost like the biggest departure from his kind of theme.
Yeah.
But typically, what defines him is that, like, that theme for most of his movies is the same theme throughout the whole thing. And because this changes environments and time periods and destinations and locations, it can't feel thematically the same, or that would defeat the purpose, you know? And so, yeah.
It's, every story feels different. And I'm not a huge short story fan that's like, here's all these little stories and they come together and then like, or like they don't come together, or it's just like,
right.
Yeah. And it's just like, not my favorite. Especially when you have like an hour and 45 minutes.
Yep.
But I enjoyed the stories that were said. And I think, man, it's hard to be like, yeah, the casting was great, the acting was great, because it just was.
Yeah.
Everyone was good. Like, when you have like this all-star cast of 40 people who are probably like super extremely well-known Hollywood actors, it's like, yeah, you're not gonna miss on this.
Yeah, I think overall too, the biggest negatives that you and I have towards it probably are things that we like genuinely respect as well, because we're kind of like, not my cup of tea probably. Like, I'm not trying to find these types of movies that often, but I respect what it did, that it's making me think about it and it's making me process and maybe like considering a rewatch and things like this. So like, if anything gets docked, it's mostly from a personal standpoint, which is fine because it's our opinion and that is personal and whatever. But it feels like its execution can't really be docked, because I think it did achieve what it was trying to do, and it did it well, and it casted well, and it did all these things. So it's just like, it's more just like, yeah, but not for me, you know, is kind of what this movie I think will end up being.
Exactly.
You know,
I feel like, to me, Grand Budapest is a 10 out of 10.
Yep.
It's just like clean, well executed, good. This is like a different feel where it's like, it's well executed in that it isn't very structured, or it's not, it's just like, it is, and the point of it is this avant-garde, like French, just like nonsense in a way. Like the movie, like the whole avant-garde movement is just like, hey, we're gonna make movies that don't make sense, and that's the point of it. And so this makes more sense than most avant-garde movies, but like it's still like, it's tapping into that, like, we're just gonna have like art on screen and then you can interpret it the way you want.
Yes.
And there's a really great beauty in that that I admire.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. Do you want to move on to spoilers? Do you want to rate this?
I do. Yeah. Let's go ahead and rate it. The only comment I would say is that after doing a little research and kind of reading into what this source material was based off of, I do think having just a maybe checking that out to just have an idea of the characters being portrayed in this could help. It's almost like it doesn't necessarily spoil their stories in what happens in the movie, but these are fictional characters, but they're inspired by real people. And I think knowing them and their motivations and what they did in real life would have helped me maybe just connect a little more with what they were doing, because I kind of understood the direction, rather than, this is a fictional film, and then at the end we're going to thank all these people that they're based off of.
Oh, that's what that was about.
So the special thanks to was all the people it was based off of. I thought that was just
friends or something.
No, that was all the real people. And so the fact that like you didn't know that, and we didn't know that, I think would have helped, because I think we probably didn't catch something. I mean, if somebody went into Avengers Endgame, it's like, I haven't seen Marvel. Yeah. It's like, but that guy named Iron Man, that's kind of cool. What's his deal? Yeah. And it's like, well, you'd probably appreciate it a lot more if you knew who Iron Man was. You know what I mean? So I just think like there was some of that where like, oh, I didn't know I had to do homework for this, because all the other ones that I've watched are just this fictional story that he explains the world to you.
Yeah.
And since this is technically fictional, but it's almost the closest thing to like truth, it would have helped me to know what happened in real life, I think.
That's fair.
So that would be my thing, is without spoilers, I think it can't hurt to know a little bit going into this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it spoils anything.
Sure.
So let's get into rating it.
Do you want to go first?
Do you want to go first? I don't care.
I think from both of our perspectives, I think this rating's going to grow on us.
Mm-hmm.
I think this movie's going to grow on us. And right now, I still really enjoyed it. And I would probably put it as an 8.
Okay.
Like, I liked it. I was like just fun.
Mm-hmm.
I liked what it did. I liked the newness. I liked the uniqueness. There's some moments where I'm like, that was just genius.
Yeah.
And it's moments that I'm like, I'd never seen anything like this before.
Yeah.
And to just kind of throw it out there and just expect the audience to accept that. That's like pushing the boundaries, and I love that. So for me, 8. And I think it might grow on me.
Yeah. Yeah, so the things that I was thinking about was this year for like Oscars.
Mm.
I don't know who there's only a few people acting wise that I think I would give this to, but I do think like this better be up there because of what it did.
For acting
like this
wise?
Well,
just
acting, but I think the movie as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
This was an experience.
Yeah.
This was a different theatrical experience. Typically, an experience for me was like an MCU, a blockbuster, where you're just joined with a community, and you're just like, let's do this. I've never experienced that on a more like artistic level, but this felt very like this was something. You should probably watch this. It kind of reminded me of other films where I don't know if I'll go back and like watch all of those films, but it's like, damn, this thing did something.
Mm-hmm.
It's very memorable because there's nothing else like it.
Yeah.
And I think that in of itself bumps it up a few points because it's not like my cup of tea. Like it's not something that I'm gonna constantly go back and rewatch. It's hard. Like I'm conflicted. I'm like, I think you're right. I think it does deserve about an 8.
Yeah.
But like I don't personally want to give it that height because I think it does deserve it. But there's just other movies that I have at 7 that I want to go back to way better, like way more.
Yeah. Then rank it.
You know what I mean?
Then rank it as such.
So that's what I'm thinking is like it's about a 7 for me. But I think that like I would be. This is the movie. We did an episode on House of Gucci, and we had some Oscar critiques for that, where we're like, hey, it's probably gonna for these. Boy, if this felt way just better as a production to be like, this should hopefully, if Gucci gets nominated, then French Dispatch should win.
Yeah, that's a great point, and let's hang there for a moment because they're both trying for the same thing.
Yep.
And Grand Budapest Hotel succeeds in so many more ways, where House of Gucci just was bland.
You mean French Dispatch?
I meant, yeah. What did I say? I said, yeah.
You said Grand Budapest.
Sorry. Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Okay, I just want to confirm that you're still talking. Okay.
I'm still just thinking about Grand Budapest.
You love Grand Budapest, but you're talking about French Dispatch.
If I say anything, I'm talking about French Dispatch.
Yes.
Wes Anderson's film succeeds where House of Gucci just wanted to be this.
Yes.
He wanted to be this artistic, whatever, acting thing, and this just blows it out of the water.
Yeah.
And so I think acting wise, you got great cast, and I think it's just who do you give it to? Can you give it to someone who had 20 minutes of screen time?
I think they're all considered supporting actors. I think lead is probably Bill Murray or something.
But he's not even in it that much.
I agree. I think if Jeffrey Wright doesn't win for supporting actor, I'd be surprised. I thought Jeffrey Wright, the third story, I thought he killed it.
He was great.
So yeah, let's just jump into spoilers then, because I think we should dissect this and kind of figure out where people are at and what we thought about all of it. But yes,
at the beginning.
Yeah, that's fine. But yeah, I think we both are even if we didn't, I mean, I guess you technically. So what did you rate House of Gucci?
Probably like a 6. I think.
Yeah, I think we did 6.
You
6
did
and a
lower
half.
than I. I think you almost did like a 4 or 5.
Yeah, I think I did too. You're right.
I think I did 6.
Yeah, so this is like 2 points above. And so would you say that like in almost every category you'd rather French Dispatch win?
Oh, yes, in every single category.
Yeah.
I just know how the Academy works, and I know House of Gucci is going to get nominated because it's a Ridley Scott movie and it's because it has all these people in it. This is far more deserving.
Paper,
on paper, House of Gucci is the winner.
Yeah.
But it's not in reality. Like, I think...
Because Wes Anderson's not necessarily a winner.
On everything,
like,
on everything that we said, that House of Gucci, or at least I said, I was more like, it's probably going to get nominated. Not that it should, that it probably is. But on set design, on like cinematography, are you kidding me?
Mm-hmm.
On just like original screenplay, you got it. Acting wise, from Jeffrey Wright, Benicio del Toro, maybe.
Yeah, he was good too.
Supporting actor, because he was great.
Well, hell, I mean, I can't think of a weak performance.
No, everyone was good.
Yeah,
everyone was good.
Because Adrian Brody was pretty good.
Not Toni Collette. Toni Collette was good in it, but Frances McDormand.
Toni Collette's in this?
I think very briefly.
Wait, who's Toni Collette?
Toni Collette's from Hereditary. Yeah, you haven't seen it. I could be totally wrong because there was.
Wait, who's she? I don't know who she's in this. But anyway, Frances McDormand was definitely good.
Maybe I was thinking of Tilda Swinton.
Oh yes, you're thinking of Tilda Swinton.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. Let's just go down. Adrian Brody,
Owen Wilson,
Timmy Chalamet, Frances McDormand. I'm gonna say this wrong, but Leah Seydoux.
Yes, the muse to the painting.
Yeah, she was great.
Mm-hmm.
I think if there was a best supporting actress, I would either go for her or Frances McDormand.
Yeah, probably Frances, just because she probably had more dialogue and like kind of
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
But that's about what I would go for acting.
I don't see anyone lead.
No,
I don't know who's even considered the lead actor in this.
Yeah.
No. So I think it would be wise for them to just go for supporting. But Jeffrey Wright, dude, for me, just killed it.
Crushed it. I think
he really sucked me in and just was like, whoa, like he is a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah,
Dude's crazy.
Everything that I'm seeing him now, and I'm like, man, you're just nailing everything.
He's about to be our new Commissioner Gordon in the Batman movie. He
Vengeance.
Iconically plays the Watcher in What If.
Yeah.
The What If Disney Plus series. I mean, dude's killing it.
Yeah.
He's got that buttery smooth voice, but also he can pop off.
I think man, I did want to start from the beginning, but now we're on the third story.
No, it's fine. Let's start over.
We're gonna. How about we restart this podcast?
No. That's fine. No, I think performances. We just wanted to get that out of the way because we were already talking about
and
Oscar.
Then Best Picture.
It has to.
Yeah.
It has to at least be nominated.
Yeah.
Comparatively.
If House of Gucci gets nominated and this doesn't get nominated? I see that as a real possibility.
I don't know.
It might happen.
House of Gucci, dude, is just so subpar.
I have the most likely thing is that it's gonna get nominated and French Dispatch won't. Then the next likely is they're both gonna get nominated. Then the least likely thing is that
I don't think French Dispatch and not House of Gucci. I think you're right. Yeah. I think just from a marketing standpoint, House of Gucci makes more sense. Even though I haven't even seen Last Duel. I bet Last Duel is better than House of Gucci. And they're both Ridley Scott movies. Yeah. I think that movie just kind of got lost, and I bet it's 10 times better than House of Gucci.
Just a trailer. I'm like, yep, I has my vote already.
Yeah. So I hope maybe we're both wrong, and Ridley like played his cards like weird, and he was like, you know what, let's just push for Last Duel, and it just gets this like weird indie like push for the Oscars.
That'd be great.
Be sick.
Cool. I think that's Oscar talk.
But yeah, we riot if French Dispatch doesn't get it, but House of Gucci does.
And then House of Gucci wins.
Oh boy, woof. Okay, yeah. So let's dive into the overall or I guess the beginning of the story.
Yeah, I think that's where it was kind of the weakest. The literal beginning where it's like, hey, here's all the setup.
Yep.
The design of it was fun. The waiter going and bringing up food to Bill Murray. awesome.
Classic Wes Anderson.
Yeah, I'm in. And
Yep.
like the title cards and all that. It's
Yeah.
just like, it took me a second to really know what's going on. And then we had like the 5-minute Owen Wilson story that could have been removed, honestly. It just felt like, oh, here's Owen Wilson on the bike. Okay, now we're on a painter. It just feels like,
Yeah.
I think the start was very messy.
Yes.
And then it took me about halfway through the first story to really know what, like, okay, we're doing this. And then second and third, I think, were just solid.
I feel like the unfortunate part of this movie is that it can't truly be a masterpiece, because I do feel like it's the jack of all trades movie, but it's the master of none movie.
Yeah, because I think it's trying to be like Bill Murray is like this great person, and like we love Bill Murray, and we don't really get that until like the last. And you're like, oh, built, and then he dies, and it's like, all these people, and I get the idea of all these people around his life, surrounding this person's life. That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
But I just don't think we get enough Bill Murray time.
Yep.
And maybe if he was in one of the stories as a more, I think if you love the cast.
Yep.
I think one of the detriments of the movie is that there's too many people.
Yeah.
I think you create a story where it's Bill Murray. You create the first story is just an extension. I don't know which one you cut, but you create.
Yeah, that's the hard part.
Or you create a longer movie. You just create a 10-minute longer movie. You cut the Owen Wilson is more in with Bill Murray. And you create 10 more minutes of like, here's this story, and here's maybe the characters, and then our characters split off and have this. But that would be my major detriment of the movie is the setup. And I understand the arc of Bill Murray. They're trying to get him to be like, there's this emotional gut punch at the end when he does die.
Yep.
And all these people surround and love him, and he's changed all these people's life. I just don't think it hits that.
Yeah. To me, what ended up happening was, I think you're right. The weakest parts were the beginning and the end, when you're kind of like brought back to like the reality of it. And I think that unfortunately brings the overall score down, because even if some of them do fly high, it is the sum of its parts. And so these had to be included, which means they have to be graded as well. My opinion is that it almost feels like a wasted opportunity, because I feel like Wes Anderson could have made a whole movie on the Benicio del Toro story. Set us up on how he got there, what he does while he's in there, and when he gets out, and all this stuff. And it would have been a great 1.5-hour movie. Yeah. But that's okay. We got a half-an-hour version of it, and it's fine. Same thing with the other two. I feel like, I kind of was left wanting more in those, but I wasn't left wanting in the beginnings. No. I was like, oh, well, Bill, like what? Bill Murray just showed up and did Bill Murray stuff, and it was fine. That's what he does, and he's good at it, But there's nothing that I remember about those that I'm like, damn. Man,
the greatness of the movie comes in those 3 parts.
Yes.
Where, like, man, some of the shots that were done, I'm like, this is cool. And, like, the pushing the boundaries was never done in the Bill Murray sections. Correct. Like, that's 100% its weakest form. Correct. And for me, that's why it is knocked down from, like, man, I love this movie, to, like, it is weak in certain areas.
Yeah. Again, like, it's like the things we hate about this movie is that it's good, but it could have been better if just these little tweaks. Like, it almost is like we're like rooting for this movie. Yeah.
And even then, like, a movie obviously has flaws. Yeah. And so, like, you can look past these flaws and it can still be like, man, I really just love the movie. It's a 10 out of 10, and I get the Bill Murray stuff, and just like, it works. Sure. But to me, like, that took me a while to get over, and maybe watching it again, I'm already over it, and I can be like, okay, this is fun. This newspaper, and this could link to Kansas, and then we have all these writers, and now let's spend the time with the writers, and like maybe that makes sense upon a rewatch where I understand where we're going.
That's fair. Yeah, maybe just some like extra knowledge of why this was made to begin with. Yeah. And just understanding its origin. Like I said, that's one helpful thing that after the movie, reading in onto like, oh, Jeffrey Wright was playing a mashup of these 2 real life people. That helped me, like, I now relate more, so I do wonder if like knowing those things would help in a second watch, and who knows, like you said, maybe it'll grow on you. And so that's why I think like in my gut, I go, hey, it deserves probably a higher score, and that higher score will definitely be given to it by the people who know and understand what is going on in this movie. But because it's not for me and it wasn't well explained, and it required extra work on my end, up, down a point, you know?
Yeah, so I think a movie should stand on its own. And I think not knowing anything about any of this movie, I think to a certain extent it does. Again, beginning, end. But first, second, third story, I think they're stellar.
Sure.
So to me, those make it to get it to the 8.
Yep.
And then
makes sense.
Dock off 2 points for a poor conclusion and a poor
start,
intro.
Yeah. Makes sense.
So you want to talk about the first kind of story with Benicio? Really great.
Yep.
I loved the just like, again, it's just like you're thrown into this weird setting, and with Adrian Brody,
he did his homework.
Yeah, and just like
he knew the assignment.
I loved my favorite scene of probably one of my 2 favorite scenes in the entire movie is just this really simple and odd, and I shared it with you, where Zero from Grand Budapest plays Benicio, and we've
young
said his name, young Benicio.
Yeah.
And they just have this really cool time-lapse moment where Zero's sitting in a chair and he stands up and gives the necklace to Benicio and then walks off, and it's just like implied that it's just like, here's a time jump.
It's 11 years later or
yeah,
whatever.
And it's just like, oh, it's insane.
Yeah.
And it's just like, that's just like such a fun and different and interesting way to
breaking
do a
the
scene
fourth
transition.
wall, but also like, yeah.
And it's just, it's brilliant, honestly. It's brilliant. And it's just, I think it was really great, and there's so many scenes of like that moment and the framing, and just like, oh, it's just like, it's really just well done and a masterclass, honestly.
Well, and the whole story in and of itself is just, it kind of goes against a lot of your assumptions, but somebody who you think of as in prison, getting to basically have this weird like love affair with the person who's like keeping them in prison, like the guard, you know? So it's just this like really, it's a weird relationship where he's like, this is awesome, and she's like, whatever, you know, blah blah blah. But what a unique story. Like and I think Tilda Swinton's character kind of like tees it up, but it's like, the reason why maybe she is like in this relationship is like she's intoxicated by the fact that like he has no control over his outcome, but she does a little bit by having a little bit of power over him, and all this, like, it's just a weird, like, that's a pretty deep dive for like a 25-minute short film, you know, like it was weird how much heart it could actually muster up for being so short and not really enough time to spend in it. And what a creative way to tell the story. Where you have somebody kind of narrating it the whole time, but there is like, I don't know. It's just, you
have a narrator,
I've never
and then
seen
you have
anything
flashbacks,
like it.
and then you have in moments, and then you have like the black and white moments, and you have the color moments, and what does that mean? And it's just like, it's something to do with like, this movie is shot in black and white and in color, and it's when it's in color, it's like vivid and bright, and then like maybe moments where like Benicio's just dark and dreary, it's black and white, and then when like the paintings come up, the color, so you see the color of the paintings, and it's vivid and it pops, and then you go back to black and white, and then you go back to color, and you go back, and it's just like, it creates this really cool dynamic of just like adding texture to a film just by using color. It
was simple but effective, where like we said, it felt overwhelming at times, where it's like there's just so much being thrown at you, but you have to give them credit. I mean, this was Wes Anderson not given an F, like, and just going for it.
He just swung and he kept swinging,
you know. And all of his other films, you know, you get like a title card, and then there's like a theme throughout. It's like Act 1 will look the same as like when they introduce Act 2. This movie was just like, yo, here's 3 and a part of me actually legitimately does wonder, did he have like a couple ideas for like his next movie, but they were just not fully baked, and so you're just like, here's a mini series of like small, and if that is true, like I know this is obviously a thing I'm creating and a rumor that I'm making up, but like I'd almost be upset because I'm like, I'd rather just see the prison movie, you know, the Revolution movie and the like crazy mystery journalist movie. So like it's fine, and maybe that's not the case, but it did kind of feel...
It could be.
Yeah. I don't know.
And maybe just like, I just don't know if there's like, maybe he didn't feel like there was enough there to expand on a story like that.
I can't make this an hour and a half, but I can make it a half an hour.
Yeah.
For sure. And it's like, okay, fair enough. But I don't know. I just, like I said, master of none, but I feel like any of these stories could have killed it.
Yeah.
If he just went full in. Like, just Wes Anderson the shit out of this movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But anyway, that's just like a little thought.
That's fair.
Yeah, Adrian Brody killed it. You said her name.
Leah Ledoux?
Yeah. She was in the newest James Bond movie and stuff like that. So, again, just plays a very stoic character, but is also extremely expressive at times. And it's just a very weird, like, this is just... Everything about this is, like, it's easy to keep me entertained because I just can't predict what the hell's going on in any of these movies. Like, you did a good job there.
Yeah.
There's nothing from the trailer or anything that helped me understand what's going on in this movie. So, that's what I'll say. Movie 2.
Movie 2.
The spice is flowing with this one.
Man, the spice was surely flowing.
Have you ever wanted to see what Timothée Chalamet looked like cosplaying as Albert Einstein? We'll look no further.
I'm embarrassed because of my muscles is something that I'm going to be saying to you quite often.
I'm embarrassed by my new muscles.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty wild. My guy. What a scrawny little lad.
Yeah, he's a tiny guy.
He is.
But this was probably for me the weakest of the three.
Mm-hmm.
Not by a very large margin, but just because I was like, what's going on here? Like, why are we doing this?
Yeah.
And just felt like we're having this revolution, and then the journalist is along, and then like, very cool moments in like the chess match that's ridiculous and silly but fun.
Yeah. But it's the most straightforward. I mean, there's kind of like a Romeo and Juliet feeling. I mean, her name's literally Juliet.
Right.
And, yeah, there's just some things like that where it feels a little like, I don't know, just a little more straightforward, I think.
Yeah, I think
That's not necessarily a bad thing, but I think it makes it it stands out less because it's not as...
That's fair.
Jarring artistically.
Yeah. That being said, there is a moment where we go to a play production of a rendition of what one of the friends was saying in the army.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That
is
weird.
There's a moment, there's like a 5-minute moment where we're just watching a play.
That is true.
And like, but yet the story-wise, it's just like Romeo and Juliet and, you know, Les Mis.
Yeah.
So, but like having that play moment in there was just like, this is happening now and you need to accept it. And then we're going on to the next thing where we're, like, Timothée Chalamet's on the back of a motorcycle and he's just like the blue lights coming in and he's smoking, and then like Frances McDormand's talking over, and then it's just like there's just so many things going on, and then he dies, and it's just like, yeah, it feels like there's a lot. It's exactly what we've been saying, is that there's a lot to unpack, but what is in there I think is really good, and I think there's some gold in there.
I also have to get on my soapbox for just a quick second. We gotta stop making 19 or 20-year-old looking men, having it be okay that they're sleeping with like 50-year-old women, because if that was definitely reversed, it's creepy as shit. Dude.
Yeah,
it's creepy as shit, and I don't know why, but for some reason, when it's like, I don't know how they get away with it, but they do something that just kind of makes you go like, oh,
got it.
That's kind of jokey and silly. And it's like, yeah, but it's not jokey and silly the other way around. And that's wild, you know? So just little things like that where it's just like unnecessary. Didn't have to do it.
Yeah.
You take 10 seconds out of this movie. It's just implied that they're together. They don't actually like show anything.
No.
But it doesn't matter. They still implied it.
Yeah.
Didn't have to. I don't get it. I just have never understood the like, if that was like a
The other way
60-year-old
around,
man and like just stopped being a teenager girl,
Yeah.
game over.
Fair.
So we got to stop. Anyway, Wes Anderson can kind of he kind of pushes weird sexual boundaries though in a lot of his movies. That's just one thing that he like, they kind of forgive him on. Sure. But yeah, like I know that was one of the biggest issues with like Moonrise Kingdom was like, hey, these kids are like 12, you know, and it wasn't like nothing like graphic or anything, like nothing happens in that movie, but you're just kind of like, can love really be that, like, you're pretty young, you know, like be careful. Like it was just like he was treading a fine line, and I just feel like this is another example of where it's just like, dude, unnecessary. Don't have to do it.
Yeah, fair.
Anyway, now you know where I stand on that. I don't feel like it's a hill that like a lot of people are like gonna fight me on.
Yeah.
But it's just like I just don't get it. I just don't get why, like, because there is something in me that watched it and I was just like, oh, huh. I'm like, wait, why am I okay with this? Like I would not be okay with this the other way. I don't know. Anyway, continue. Soapbox done.
No, I mean, there's not much I want to say else.
Okay.
After that.
That's fine. Sorry if I derailed.
No,
this one.
I just, no, it's fine. I'm like, oh, this was good.
Yep.
I like this one. I think there's fun moments with the play and the
Yes.
lighting and like the framing of like they're like there's like square frames and like obviously with Wes Anderson there's a lot of symmetry, and then like just the love story was good, and
Yep.
the chess match was just dumb and silly, and then like when the police attack and like all of them are just on the bridge and they throw, it's just like, it's just where it's Wes Anderson again.
Yes.
It's like, how can you tell if a movie was made by Wes Anderson? You just look at it.
Yes, exactly.
Which is insane.
And yeah, again, a 10-second scene doesn't ruin the whole movie, but
It's just so much.
That's where I'm at.
That's funny.
But I did enjoy most of the, like, this one used that lighting where they went from black and white to color in a cool way. They met over like the jukebox and like that place came to life kind of, and they did a cool, the lighting in that was pretty neat. And then there's like a moment where he shares Timmy shares that moment. I don't know what Juliet's actress name was, but just it really captures like teenagers, like like young college students, like in love, where they're just literally just intoxicated in each other by just looking into each other's eyes for like a good like minute of film. It felt long, but it was just like, yep, I've experienced that exact same thing. Like I know exactly what's happening. Like I'm in. I got it. And it's cool that he can capture emotional feelings in a scene by just making two people look at each other. It's wild. So there's just some like really cool beats that he does that I'm just like, damn, all right, you took me to a place that I wasn't expecting to go tonight. All right, thank you.
Yeah.
So yeah, there you go.
Well, let's move on to the last story. And
this one's batshit crazy.
Yeah, I think both of our favorites.
Yes. Let me ask you this.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on the animation that they used?
Brilliant. It was my favorite part of the movie.
Interesting. Okay.
It was so stupid. I loved it.
Yes.
It was my favorite part.
Yeah. It did a few. Okay.
Say you hated it.
No, for me, it was like, this felt like you ran out of money.
No. That's way more expensive to do, I think.
Really? Because they obviously do more in the animation than like what real life would. Like, it would have been tough to do some of the stuff. Like the guy hopped on the car, he gets like thrown off, he gets hopped back out, like, and then they run into all the stuff in the animation. So I was just like, this just feels really like you didn't really prep me for why this is happening.
Well, there was a very brief moment, and maybe it's more of an excuse to put into the movie with like, oh, it's an artist rendering of them getting
That's
away.
true.
So there's very brief, like 30 seconds, and then there's a very extended. I think it's extremely deliberate, and that like it's supposed to be ridiculous and silly, and having a 5-minute animated scene chase in this movie, and then they hop back out of the car, and then they go back into the car. Oh, it's so good. That's the best part. It's the best part.
It was amazing, and maybe this is why this film isn't our favorite Wes Anderson film because it's Wes Anderson. It felt like Wes Anderson's like, I don't know if I'm going to ever make a movie again, so I'm going to make 5 Wes Anderson films.
Yeah, it felt like this is almost his swan song in a way.
It really did.
Yeah.
It felt so weird that I was just like, what are we doing, dude? Like, what? Like, genuinely, what are we doing?
Having the animation was like the peak of that.
Yeah, but it's like, okay, this is great. I would watch a movie that's just like this. But again, it's just used as an element. But he had so many elements in this film that I'm just like, dude, I cannot keep up, dude. I did not know that all these things were on the table. It just felt like he's like, what tools do I have? And they're like, well, you could do black and white. And he's like, that sounds pretty cool. He's like, well, but you could do wide shot color. He's like, so that sounds pretty dope too. It's like he went through the buffet and he couldn't not say no to like one of the entrees.
And that's what's kind of great about it. Because it is this buffet of Wes Anderson.
Again, yeah.
It's not a detriment,
Oh, dude. It's just like, it's probably one of those movies that film students will study and they're just going to get like, all right, I guess we're going to learn how to do this, 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 and this. It just happens to all be in the same film instead of watching 18 different movies. Yeah. So anyway, I just had to get your take on that because I was just like, dude.
I loved it.
I'm not ready for another thing. Just the gimmicks are just everywhere, dude.
And I think that's like just like he was just like, you know what? I'm gonna have my toolbox and we're just gonna play in it.
It was very cute. Yeah.
I love that scene. And I think Jeffrey Wright again was probably the best in the movie. His character was cool. I liked going with the chef and the police officers, and like I liked the concept. And then like Edward Norton, and then I think again I don't know her actress's name, but Lady Bird was there. Saoirse Ronan, yeah. And then the moment that he shares with the cook at the end, where it's just like, I wasn't afraid. What was it? I didn't have courage. I was just afraid of what others would think of me. Bro.
Yeah.
Okay. I got you.
Well, and like, he kept that part out of his final draft, and then Bill Murray's character was just like, yo, this is like the whole reason the story should have been written to begin with. Oops, my bad.
No, that's my bad.
And he has this beautiful moment where like the chef ends up, taking the poison himself because he's trying to save this kid and whatnot, and all he can think about is he's like, I've never experienced that flavor before, and it's like, that's not what I'd be thinking after I just poisoned myself, but you know what? Maybe that is what I'd be thinking about if I was a chef.
And
it's just like,
just having like new experiences, and like having like something surprise you, and that's like maybe what the whole film was about, Nick.
Yeah. Oh, no, exactly. This is like, hey Nick, I know you haven't had, like, I'm trying to think of like something like I haven't had in a while, because I was like, I don't think I'll like that.
I don't think you've had a movie that went from black and white to color to black and white to color to an animation to a play to a...
Correct. And so this whole movie just kind of felt like we're going to shake things up a little bit.
Yeah.
But it just didn't tell you that it was going to shake things up. I was like, I'm prepared for Wes Anderson level of shaking up. And he's like, oh, hold my black and white colored beer, baby. I'm just like, oh, okay, here we go.
Hold my vintage 1942 rosé.
Yeah. And it truly did feel like a love letter of a movie.
Yeah, like if this was somehow like, if like Wes Anderson died, and this was like a movie made by like his protege somehow, this feels like, oh yeah, you're almost trying too hard at this point.
Yep.
But it is like a love letter to cinema, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. Or
just
if you ever go
just
see a
silliness.
movie and you're like, this is so predictable of what's going to happen, because a lot of people make safe movies. I can say without a doubt, this movie would never have just organically shown up if it wasn't for Wes Anderson.
Yeah, I think so.
Like, there's just nothing about this movie that's like predictable.
Yeah.
Or
like
just even like,
wise,
why would you write this?
Yeah.
Like, I can't even think of somebody who's like, it's really on my heart, this story.
Yeah.
Like, it's just so him, and it's so like it's a gift. Like,
Yeah.
this never would have been created if it wasn't for him.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you liked it, great, because there's a lot of movies that could have totally been created by someone else, you know?
Yeah, and I think like that's why I rate it highly and why I love it is because like, man, we could have seen another Hatraguchi last night.
Fair enough.
We could have seen another like horror Halloween Kills.
Yeah.
We could have seen.
Well, I mean, and as much as I love the MCU,
could have seen another Marvel movie.
80% of those movies are not necessarily unique in and of themselves. Right. They're pretty. They got a formula, you know.
Right.
And enough chefs are in the kitchen that your only signature is that you get to say that you directed it.
Yeah.
And you maybe added a few creative decisions, you know.
Yeah. And so
yeah.
I think there's an inherent value to that, to like someone like this where you're like, yeah, what you're saying about pushing the boundaries and like
I would still
uniqueness.
I would still choose who I recommend this movie to.
Oh yeah.
But it is unique.
Yeah, like we had a friend ask, like, should I see it? I'm like, only if you like this. Only if you know what you're getting into.
This is not your like entry into Wes Anderson.
No, yeah, like I would not show, like, this is not the first movie recommended to someone who doesn't see Wes Anderson. If like, yeah, I really enjoyed Moonrise Kingdom, well, you're gonna either love or hate this.
Yeah, it's definitely like you said, it just kind of feels like his swan song. It feels like his, all right, I got all the funding I needed. I got the cast finally assembled. It's go time, baby. And just went off.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel like he was told no at all at any point in this film.
No, it was him. It was entirely him, which, hey, great.
Mm-hmm.
And then Bill Murray dies.
Sad.
Yeah.
We didn't care enough about his character, though, for it to matter.
I
had a cool moment where they all kind of
I liked
the whole
that.
crew was going to write his obituary.
Yeah, I thought that was cool.
Which was what the movie was his whole thing.
Yeah, we like the whole book was his obituary, yeah. So, and then like another like little minor thing was like, okay, we got three perspectives. Well, there's all these other writers in the room, like what about them? Or like, yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I don't know what to tell you. There's parts of this movie that just don't make sense, dude.
That's fine.
Like I said, I don't think anyone was telling this dude what to do.
No.
And that's why it probably reached the highs that it did, but it still kind of had some lows, because I was just like, did anyone produce this movie? Like, did anyone, like, ask a question of, like, hey, are we good?
Yeah.
It's like, I don't think so. I think they all just were like, yep. You want me to do what? All right.
Yeah, this is the most, and, like, that's great, because, like, the director had full power. Cool. Do it. Make the movie you want.
Yeah, you know how, like, if you're mining, you, like, get just a bunch of raw material, but then you can break that down and, like, refine that into a diamond? This just feels like you were mining a big old Wes Anderson cave, and you found a big old thing at Wes Anderson, and no one refined it. It's just a big old raw Wes Anderson ore. And then they just like you just threw it on the screen.
At someone, and you're just like, wow, that wasn't an experience.
Yeah,
That's perfect.
It's just a big old raw Wes Anderson. Yeah,
big old raw Rock Anderson.
Yep. Whereas I feel like a Grand Budapest is very much like, okay, here's all the rough stuff, but there's that diamond. Now let's just tell the diamond story.
Yeah, fair.
This is just rough everything, just the whole thing. There's some diamonds in here for sure. Mm-hmm. And there's just some shit in here. There's some shit in this cave, dude. Like, I don't know what's going on, but it's just a bunch of diamonds and shit. It's good, dude.
You're gonna eat it up. Yum, yum, yum.
Yeah.
Num, num, num.
That's all I gotta say. It's a big old shitty diamond. That's what the French Dispatch is, baby.
Put it on the Blu-ray.
7 out of 10. Shittiest diamond I've ever seen.
Chef's kiss.
Chef's kiss.
Nick Krusich. And with that,
There you go.
Anything else you want to add? Because I think you basically summed up your opinion on the movie with just saying it's a big
I
old
popped
shitty
off a little
diamond.
bit. Yeah, it's just a shit covered
You're
diamond.
holding back. You're holding back. I appreciate it.
Yeah. No, I would say if you enjoy cinema and you want to see it push boundaries in all sorts of that way and have it all happen to you with under 2 hours in one film, I think we got the movie for you.
Yeah.
I don't know if everyone's looking for that,
No.
and so I don't think this is going to be like a stocking stuffer, gotta get this 4K baby, like for everyone, you know? But
No.
I do think, what it tried to do, it accomplished, and I think it went hard. I just think who this is for is a niche of people.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. You're right.
It will not be like beloved by the masses.
No.
It may confuse the masses into not hating it
Mm-hmm.
because they're just like, I don't know enough of what happened to say this sucked. But I don't think there's going to be a lot of people who are just like, this is a masterpiece. But I think that there will be people who see this as just like, oh, holy shit, this is what you can do with film. This is insane.
Yeah.
And for that reason, I think it's worth its creation.
Yeah, I agree.
Boom. I nailed it.
Well, I'm sure you've maybe heard of.
No, not a single one. Not a
Not
single,
a single person is reviewed.
They're looking for it, though.
They're looking for it, and hey, you found it. And you found it by Not Us United.
Boom. See you later, everybody.
Woo! Hey, how do we start this podcast?
Hey, baby. Shit diamonds. Holla.
Get your diamonds and just get over here and make. I'm gonna stop. You've just listened to Not Us United. You can find us under Not Us United on Spotify, iTunes, and YouTube. Please leave us a review and consider subscribing to our podcast. You can reach out for future podcast topic suggestions at notusunitedpod@gmail.com.